right. So you want to hear about Freddy's Fridays, huh? Well, let's talk about it. This movie is pretty weird. Okay, it's a low budget horror film. You can find it on like Prime, I think. That's where I watched it. And it sounds familiar. It sounds like Five Nights at Freddy's, almost like similar, because when I was searching up stuff to like movie posters for the thumbnail, like 90% of the results were Five Nights at Freddy's related stuff. So this movie came out in October last year, so just a few months ago. So I'm not saying it was made to try and capitalize off of FNAF in any way, but probably that's what happened. Maybe, I don't know. But anyway, the movie itself it's okay. Like, I had an okay time watching it. There are some decent unalivings. I'm just gonna say, I don't know if I'm allowed to use the K word on YouTube, but it's the premise is sort of interesting. I won't explain the whole movie, but basically have this guy finding these escorts, we'll call them. That's what that's the nicest way to say it, or like the best way to say it. And he basically has them say these words out of this book, and the words are a ritual to summon what we know as Freddy and his friends, who basically unalive the people who say the incantation, which it's interesting because there's supposed to be demons, like in the movie the detective lady who is investigating these murders, which we'll get to in a second. They basically discover it's demonic. That's how they describe it. But the actual, like, Freddy and his gang, I guess we'll call them, they kind of look like mascots, which makes me more inclined to believe they were trying to capitalize off FNAF, because like you got Freddy himself, who's a bunny. You've got like a scarecrow person. You also got like a creepy clown. And then I forget what the other one was. There's one more, like this weird like masked person who had like claws to like slice at people. And that's the other thing too, is throughout this movie, they're investigating. Oh my gosh, excuse me. Well, I should probably start out at the beginning, after the prologue. So basically, this detective lady, I think her name was Leela. She's investigating these murders, because there's like 6 people to go missing, and they went missing every Friday. And like her chief, it's funny because her chief of police or whatever, like, doesn't take her that seriously, because all the women who've gone missing, they're all women, and they're all escorts. So the chief doesn't take it that seriously, which it was kind of funny, like how blatantly, like, I don't know what's the word. It was just very icky. Like, I don't know. I could go on a whole rant about that. But anyway, so she decides to take matters in her own hands, like any good detective. She finds like the leader, or the woman running the escort agency, because it's like, I hope y'all understand what I'm saying with the word escort, because I don't want to say the other word. I don't know if I'll get in trouble for saying it, but from YouTube. But basically, the detective Leela finds the woman running the place, and this woman tells her like, some of my girls have been missing, and I want you to like find them and like avenge them, basically. Like because she's like pretty sure they're all dead because all of them have turned up dead. I don't know, I forget a lot of names, but it was funny too. Like one of the inconsistencies, which is not uncommon in movies like this. So when Lila is out looking for the agency, because she wanted to find the escort agency. That sounds very weird saying it out loud, but she was like out and about, and then she gets dragged away by the woman in charge of everything, and it's funny because they're walking down an alleyway. No, at this time it's like broad daylight. Okay, so like it's super bright. There's a few people walking outside. So Lila begins to ask her questions, and then the woman's like, no, we gotta talk somewhere else. Then literally 2 seconds later, they go into this other part of like a walkway, but it's not as like populated. There's not as many people out, but it's still in broad daylight, and you can see in the background there's a few people walking to and fro, and she's like, it was just so funny watching it because she's like, no, we gotta find somewhere else to talk. And then they literally turn around the corner. But anyway, after that, Lila goes to her apartment. Well, it's weird because this movie I think is set in England, because Lila and the leader of the agency and the other characters, like her boyfriend and her roommate, I think they all have British accents, but like the chief of police doesn't. I'm not sure if the main bad guy, the one who's trying to get people unalived, his name is Todd, and I can't remember if he has an accent or not, like a British accent. But anyway, where was I at? Oh yeah, so she's back at her flat, we'll call it, and she is talking, like looking at evidence or whatever with her boyfriend, and her boyfriend's like, he's basically trying to talk her out of it. He thinks it's too dangerous, even though she's a detective. Like it's kind of her job to investigate these things, and also like it seems like no one else at the police department cares enough to want to investigate as much as she does, so she kind of is the only one. Anyway, and she's like, no, I've got to do it. And then her boyfriend, I forget his name. I have it in my notes somewhere, but he basically reveals, he's like, finding this woman or these women is not gonna bring your sister back. And we get oh my gosh, excuse me. And Lila kind of reveals that her sister went missing when they were both very young, and she was never found. And it's kind of alluded to that she became a detective because she wanted to prevent that from happening again. I know I'm kind of summarizing the movie at this point. I'll try to be quick. So like after that exchange, her roommate comes down. I think her roommate's name is Jessica. And Jessica comes down. She's like, she doesn't like the boyfriend. And she was kind of annoying at this part of the movie because she like kept talking about like her Instagram and like her podcast. She's like, if he was useful, he'd subscribe to my podcast. I'm just like, okay, why are we talking about this? And then Leela has Jessica help her out with the investigation. So like she does some online digging, and then they find Todd's profile, and they find out he was a stockbroker. And up until recently, he actually had extremely bad luck with earning money. But they kind of pinpoint that ever since the murders, or the unalivings, I should say, he's gotten a lot more money. Like he's become super rich. And so this is where the movie gets kind of more weird. So Leela goes to this club, which Jessica gives her a membership card for. She says it's like the super rich club, but when it's when she goes there, it's like the dingiest club ever. Like, it's not bad looking, but it's definitely not like super rich. And then, on like a side note, there's this character, like a couple men try to flirt with Leela at the bar, which, I mean, it's probably the most realistic part of the movie. But none of them like get too far, which is nice. But there is this one character named William, but he like calls himself Big Willie. He's like, "Oh, Big Willie," and it was pretty funny. But anyway, so Leela finds Todd with some other escort, with another woman. And so they walk to this warehouse where the first unaliving happened. And it's very strange because it's not clear how much they traveled. And I don't think Todd went to the exact same place to find a person to unalive. But everywhere seems very close, which is kind of odd because you think people would notice that kind of thing. Anyway, and another weird inconsistency happens around this part. So Todd takes this girl out of the bar, like out the back door, and they go to the warehouse. And Leela follows them. When they first go outside, okay, it's nighttime. Like, it's dark outside. And Leela, she follows them, like she sneaks behind them. She doesn't make herself known, which is whatever. But then they get to what looks like a parking garage. And it's very strange because it's very clearly shot in broad daylight. Like, you can see the sun out on the left side, like shining through the whole place. And it's also kind of funny because Leela's still wearing heels at this point, and she didn't bring an extra pair of shoes with her for some reason. And you can, because it's a parking garage, and like there's like hardly anyone there, so any noise you make is gonna be like amplified by like 10 times. So she's wearing these heels, and they're like they're very loud, and she's very close to the two. And so Todd begins to investigate. Like, he looks around the corner because Leela's hiding, but then the woman is like, "No, baby, let's go. So Todd, for some dumb reason, he's just like, "Okay, let's go." And then they just keep going, and then they go outside again, outside the warehouse, and then it's nighttime again. So that's fun. Let's see. And so they finally get to the warehouse. Todd and his new girl go inside, but then Leela's trying to find a way in, and unfortunately she doesn't do it in time because Todd is able to have this woman say the ritual, and then she's unalived, unfortunately. And this is another weird part of the whole movie I don't really understand, because in the ritual it describes summoning Frederick, or Freddy, this bunny demon thing, but like maybe I missed something, but it never mentions the other, like, the mascots. Like, there's no explanation for why they are there too, like helping murder, because it's like, or unalive, but because with the way the unalivings happen in this movie, you only need like one or two people to take down like a human, because most of them aren't prepared to face them. I don't know why the whole squad is there. Like, and another weird thing too, which I'll talk about later, is like, unlike other slasher movies where like the person, like the killer or whoever, like the monster, usually they go on like a rampage sometimes. So like they go throughout the town or the city or whatever and just start like unaliving a bunch of people. But this movie, it never happens, because the ritual, basically Freddy can only unalive the people that say the ritual, which it makes sense. Like, it's pretty consistent throughout, I will say, but it's also kind of boring, because you're like, oh, the only people that are gonna pass away are the ones who say the ritual, which we'll get to my issues with that in a second. But so Leela gets in after everything's happened. She finds no body, but there's a bunch of blood everywhere, and she does find this book, which has the incantations in it. And another weird inconsistency or thing about this movie is this book, it looks really cool, actually. Like, it almost looks like it's made of human skin. Like, it's very creepy, like gross. And there's like an eyeball on the cover, and the eyeball is constantly moving, right, and like blinking, and it looks pretty cool, I will say. But every time someone who besides Leela who sees the book, they're like, they just think, oh, this is creepy, like this book is weird, but they don't comment on the fact that there's an eyeball on it. And then when they start bringing up like demonic stuff and like entities from other planes of existence, they don't really believe it at first, even though there's like this inexplicable, almost alive book. I don't know, it's weird. But after, I'll try and speed through this because I'm already taking a lot of time. But so Leela goes back. She tries to get her chief to take her seriously. Like, he tries to explain what's going on, and he's still kind of useless. But to his credit, he does ask her, like, well, if you saw someone get unalived, then why didn't you call for backup? And which is a fair point on his end, because Leela kind of just wanted to solo it for some reason. She didn't bring any weapons with her either, as far as I'm aware. Like, she just brought like herself, like her purse or whatever, and then like that's about it. Like, she didn't bring like a pew pew with her or something, which I found funny. So she goes back to her boyfriend and Jessica, her roommate, and they all talk about the book. And basically, as they're talking about it, the boyfriend ends up reading part of the incantation. And later, like a few scenes later, he ends up getting like unalived as well. And then what else happens? I don't know. It's kind of weird. Hold on, let me look at my notes. So Leela's out investigating, and then she comes back and then realizes her... Oh, no. Sorry, I'm skipping a beat, because she, before going to the police station after the second unaliving, instead of going straight there, she actually goes back home, and then that's where her roommate and her boyfriend talk about the book, and that's where he reads it. And then she goes to the chief the next day instead of right then and there, and tells him what she knows, but then he like criticizes her and whatnot. And then when she gets back home, she finds out her boyfriend is gone. And it's kind of sad. Her roommate Jessica, like, after everything happens, she's a lot less annoying, I will say. Like, her character, she's a lot more like comforting for Leela and like trying to help her out. And then during one of the scenes where they're trying to figure out what's going on, where Leela's still kind of like angry, like she's obviously grieving because her boyfriend was taken from her. Jessica reads part of the incantation, but then Leela tries to stop her, like she stops her. But unfortunately, we'll find out later, it was too late. Like, it wasn't enough to save her. So Leela goes back out as herself. Like, she basically, at this point, she's like, well, I'm gonna pretend to be an escort now, which I don't really know why she didn't do that at the beginning. Like, it probably would have been a lot better, because like she knew who Todd was, and she could have figured out a time to actually get him. Like, and she knew the place too. Like, I don't know, it was weird. So anyway, Leela goes with Todd. Like, she puts out this facade, They go back to the same warehouse where he's got all these candles and presumably the book, but he realizes it's gone, and then she kind of like teases him a bit. It's kind of funny. And then she reveals that she stole the book. And he gets mad at her, but then he's also like, well, guess what? I have all the words memorized. So he like, which if you just hear that, it's very weird, because if you have all the words memorized, like if you think about that for a second, that means you have to tell somebody the words unless you like write them down yourself, which he doesn't. So you could probably guess what happened next. He like begins like choking her, and he's like, say the words, and he says, he's like an absolute goober. He says all the words out loud for the incantation, and he's like, oh no, oh no, oh no, and like the Freddy and the gang are summoned, and then he's like, wait, no, we made the deal, but then he gets unalived as well, and then Leela escapes, and it's really funny. Not just the fact that he summoned the demons himself, but I think the clown guy like slices at him in the neck, and then Freddy goes up to him because like Todd, I think, is lying on the ground or on the table. I don't remember exactly. And Freddy, instead of like doing like stabbing him or something, he literally just starts punching Todd in the face. And it's probably the funniest thing I've ever seen in like a low budget horror movie. Oh man, I actually was laughing out loud when I saw it. It was really funny. But anyway, Leela goes back home, and then she begins to tell Jessica everything, but she sees that Freddy and the gang also got to her too, and then she's like having a really bad time because her friend and her boyfriend have both died. And then she goes to the police chief comes to her house because he's like, there's been 2 people murdered, and then you're the only one, involved, or like something like that. And then she tries to tell him everything, and then she convinces him to go to the warehouse and like summon the demon, or like excuse me, oh my gosh. She convinces him to go to the warehouse and summon the demons, so that he knows it's real, and they do. And it's kind of funny because there's this fight between those two and like Freddy and the gang, and like they're both throwing hands. It's really funny. I don't think either of them have guns though, which is really weird because they're police and they're supposed to have guns. I think, especially against a threat like this, that's what I know I would want. Even if I found out later like it doesn't work, like bullets don't work against demons, it's better to try something than just go with your hands, I guess. But they actually do. They get down most of them. Like they beat down the clown first, and then Scarecrow. Then they get to Freddy last, I think. But the chief, the chief gets hit in like the abdomen area, and then Leela, she gets like poked in the back. I want to say stabbed, but it wasn't quite that because she didn't like fall down immediately. But like she gets poked in the back by the weird claw guy, and starts to get dragged away, but then she like elbows him in the face, I think. No, all of the villains are defeated, and then we cut to 2 weeks later, when her and the chief, they're like sharing tea or something. But then we cut back to the warehouse, and then we see Freddy like wake up basically. So like the threat is not over. So I don't know. I think I read online there's a sequel to this movie somewhere, but let me know if you guys want me to watch it and review it, because I totally will. But my final thoughts. So some of the things that I did like about this movie, the designs of the characters, they were all right, but specifically Freddy's eyes looked really cool. Like I don't know what they did, but they kind of looked like the newer animatronics you would see at like Disneyland or Disney World, or they have like the digital eyes that move around and blink, and they look really cool on Freddy. Um, and the only nice thing about this movie is that it's very short. I think it's only like an hour and 10 minutes long. So if you're looking for like a movie that you just kind of want to turn your brain off and just not think about anything for a bit, but not for too long, this movie's perfect. But in overall quality, again, it's a low budget. I can tell, like, the actors, you know, they did their best with what they were given. But I feel like this movie could have benefited a lot from more unalivings, like more killer action, right? Because, like I said before, the only people that these demons can kill are people who say the incantation, which is really lame. Because, like, I don't know, it's just boring. It was just boring. Like, nothing really happened until the incantation started. But anyway, I'm definitely gonna be talking about more bad horror movies in the future, and maybe some stuff that I think is good, but I also really like as well. Just let me know what you guys think, and I will see you guys next time.